We are dealing with a pretty active weather day here across the state of Colorado. So we do have a low pressure system that is sitting over the Four Corners region. This is helping to stream in more moisture into our state. Then we do have this cold front that is draping across Oklahoma, Texas into Kansas and Nebraska as well. And that's helping to push all of that moisture closer to the plains and out that way. So we have a couple storms that are starting to fire up this afternoon and evening, and that will unfortunately be the story. So if you are heading outside this evening, I would suggest bringing an umbrella. Once we get to about 8 o'clock, we'll start to die down with that activity, but there will still be a few isolated storms, especially towards the Pikes Peak region, up towards Monument, and then once we get into the overnight hours, we will still see some of that activity lingering. Here's a look at your evening planner. So we'll be dealing with more so cloud cover now through 7 p.m. Then as we go into the 9 o'clock hour, that's when we'll start to see things pick up for us here in the Pikes Peak region. Now for Pueblo, just a little bit more sunshine to start us off for the evening. Then we'll pick up more cloud cover, and a spotty shower isn't out of the question. So those overnight lows tonight will get into the 40s and 50s across the I-25 corridor. Those warmest morning temperatures will be across Highway 50, but I do want to note that we do have some 30s that are starting to peek through into that forecast. So those lower valleys, we have that cold air that just stinks down into those valleys, and it's really hard for that cold air to exit the area. So we do have a chance for some frost out towards Alamosa and that valley out that way. So I would suggest bringing any sensitive plants inside that can't really experience any frost. Now highs tomorrow will be right back into the 70s, lower 70s for Colorado Springs. 80s expected for Pueblo. We'll get up to 81 degrees for La Junta, 77 for Canyon City, and then 61 for Woodland Park. Again, a much calmer day ahead of us. There's still a slight chance for some small activity here in El Paso County and up towards Woodland Park as well. So don't be surprised if you do see a spot shower. And then once we get into the afternoon hour, there is still a chance for some showers with just a little bit of some lingering moisture that we do have. So don't be surprised if you do see that as you go into your afternoon. So this low pressure system will continue to work its way north, and we'll have more of a zonal pattern as we go into your Monday. So all that means is the upper level winds will be flowing from the west to the east, and that gives us a much calmer pattern for us here across Colorado. So that low pressure system will continue to push north, but with this low pressure system, as we get to about Wednesday, we'll see some a cold front that will push through the state. So there is still a little bit of uncertainty with this cold front and the timing of that, but about Wednesday is when we will likely see that cold front push through, and we'll see an increase in those rain chances as well as a dip in our temperatures. So for your Sunday, again, 73 degrees. Going into the beginning of the work weekend, it's going to be nice. We'll continue to stay dry. Temperatures will rise into the lower 80s for us here in Colorado Springs. Now looking ahead to your Wednesday, it'll be very isolated for us here. So we'll start off with clear conditions. Then once we go into the evening hours, that's when we're likely going to see the isolated chance for a thunderstorm. Pueblo, 80 degrees for the next 3 days. It's going to be a hot one going into Tuesday, so just take any extra precautions to stay safe from the sun. Then once we get into Wednesday, we'll dip back down into those upper 70s with a small chance of a thunderstorm in the area. Not a lot of impact with these storms going into the middle of the work week. Canyon City, 77 for Sunday. Very nice day ahead of us, especially going into Monday as well. We'll continue to clear out with that cloud cover. Afternoon thunderstorms will be possible for your Wednesday. Looking ahead for Woodland Park, Tuesday we'll likely start to see that isolated chance for a thunderstorm on Tuesday. And then once we get into Wednesday, those temperatures will continue to dip into those 60s.